Hello, thank you for joining us. This is Vicki with Alive Fit and Free, and we're back with Nancy Lyons for part two of her cancer journey. So today we're going to talk a little bit about where she's gone after all of the treatments, but we're going to recap from our last session. So Nancy, welcome. So glad to have you again. She's going to give us a little brief overview of what we discussed last time, the beginning of discovering that she had cancer. And so, Nancy, I'm just going to let you take it away.
Okay, thanks, Vicki. It's a
Sure.
pleasure to be here again. As we discussed in part one, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in October of 2019. It came out of the blue as a complete surprise and complete shock, needless to say. I really didn't have any symptoms, which is not unusual in this type of cancer. So I'll very briefly tell you the type of cancer is called primary peritoneal cancer. I had never heard of it. Many people haven't. It's a rare form of a gynecological cancer. And when it was discovered, it was already advanced, designated stage 4.
Wow.
So I immediately went into treatment. Probably, I think it was about a week after I was diagnosed. I was in chemotherapy, had 4 chemotherapy sessions, followed by a surgery, a fairly extensive surgery. They call it debulking, where they try to get all of the areas where they can see the cancer. In my case, it had also spread to the spleen, so they took the spleen, and had spread to the dome of my liver, so they went in and were able to scrape that area. And again, kind of rummaged around in the abdomen to get as much
Yikes.
as they could. Yeah, yikes. um, so that was then followed. So I had 4 chemo sessions to shrink the tumor mass enough that the surgeon felt surgery was safe. After surgery, I had 2 more chemotherapy sessions. The last one was just about 1 year ago.
Yay.
And yay! And they even gave me a certificate. Who would have guessed?
Right?
Everybody
Fantastic.
claps and gives you
Yay.
a certificate and sends you on your way. I'm like happy to be going away.
Absolutely. Great
Anyway,
celebration.
but so again, that was just about a year ago. I have remained stable, if you will, in this past year. They monitor very, very closely. I have blood work done every 6 weeks, and I have a CT scan every 3 months. So far, so good with that.
Great, fantastic. Okay, I know we briefly talked, like in the first session, you said that because the discovery and was so out of the blue, and that you had not really any time to make any choices about options. They just said you need to go into treatment immediately. You didn't really have time to stop and think. It was just like, okay, I have to do this. So, fast forward to and I know it probably mentally and emotionally it was just like a whirlwind at the start. You're kind of numb, I'm assuming, because you had no idea that this was happening. But as time kept going, how, I don't know exactly what I'm asking you here, but tell us about the mental and emotional journey kind of through that whole first part, and then let's talk about after the treatments.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I think you're in, a bit of a state of shock, if you will, maybe a
Yeah.
lot of a state of shock. So, as you said, I didn't really have time to give it too much thought. And in terms of the emotional, I mean, it is obviously an emotional, roller coaster of sorts. But again, I think I was so focused on just getting through the treatment. The first stage was, as I indicated, the 4 sessions of chemotherapy.
Right.
And so the emotional piece during that time was concern and worry about whether or not the chemotherapy would be effective in reducing the cancer enough that surgery could be possible.
Okay.
So you don't really know going in. I mean, obviously you hope, you pray that in fact the chemo will be effective, but it's not always effective.
Right.
So that was sort of, if you will, the emotional process, the thought process during that period of time. So obviously we're very buoyed by the fact that at the end of those 4 treatments, scans showed that things had been reduced enough. The surgeon felt confident that surgery was, possible and indicated. So I went forward with the surgery. Post that, the surgery was, successful, if you will. They tell you right up front, they're never going to get all of it. They're going to do the best they can, and the whole goal is really management. So got through the surgery, did 2 more chemotherapy sessions. The tests subsequent to that looked good. And I made the decision, as I think I indicated in part 1, based on consultations with all of my, doctors, specialists in this area, to not, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. To not, sorry. Thank you. I never do just one, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
There we go.
Hope you have a good editor. Made the decision to not at that point in time begin a maintenance therapy program. So that was emotional. That was a tough decision,
Right.
if you will, because I felt like, oh my gosh, at least if you're doing something, taking a drug or whatever, you feel like you're doing something.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned to my surgeon that, gosh, I'm a little anxious about doing nothing. He said, you're not doing nothing. You are continuing, your exercise program. You're focusing on your nutrition, and you're maintaining a positive attitude. And those are the 3 things that he stressed over and over.
Fantastic.
Important. And so
wow, those are really important points. Yeah.
Went forward. Let me add something that I don't think I mentioned previously. If I did, stop me. But that might be helpful to other people facing this kind of situation. The importance of getting a second opinion when you are first diagnosed. Now, as you indicated, I didn't have time to go out and seek a second opinion before starting treatment. So I went ahead and started treatment, but I did seek a second opinion through a National Cancer Institute facility in UC San Francisco. And they confirmed both the diagnosis and the treatment, but that gave me a sense of, comfort, if you will, confidence that what was being proposed was the appropriate thing. So I highly recommend that.
Yeah, I think that that's really wise. Like you said, it gave you a little more confidence that you were making the right choice. Not that at that point you really had a choice to make, but you could have.
But we could have switched. Right. Right.
I think that's really helpful. And I also wonder, so Nancy is my cousin, and I watched her on a personal level deal with this journey, and went to visit her right after she had the surgery, a few weeks after the surgery. And I'm going to tell you what, I was absolutely amazed at her recovery, number one, and that she looks absolutely great. And my question here, I wonder, did your surgeon or your doctors ever allude to the fact that you came through the treatments as well as you did because you previously did take care of yourself? You exercise regularly, you eat well, and you do generally have a great positive attitude. Did he ever mention to you that maybe those things helped you to recover as quickly as you did?
Yeah, good question. And yes, he did many times. He commented on the fact that I was uh, I was otherwise in really good health, which I
Okay.
always kind of chuckled at. But yes,
Yeah.
I wasn't overweight. That I exercised regularly, and as you said, ate well, and maintained
Yeah, for
a good
sure.
positive outlook. And so I try to take those three areas forward with me, knowing that certainly they help me on a day to day basis, but also knowing that with the high rate of reoccurrence in this type of cancer, that there's a possibility, a good possibility that the cancer will reoccur. And I believe that those practices, if that happens, will serve me well should I have to, go back into treatment.
Yeah.
And if you go in strong, you're going to have a lot better ability to tolerate what are very toxic and difficult treatments.
Right, fantastic. Yes, I totally agree with you. And I think it's wonderful that he mentioned that to you about, that you are doing something. Just because you're not on a maintenance program, you are doing the most important things actually to keep yourself well and healthy and moving forward. So give us an idea of what you do in each one of those areas to stay healthy and positive. What do you do diet wise? Let's start there.
I try to eat in as healthy a manner as possible. Probably the most healthy diet I could adopt at this point is a completely plant-based diet, but that's just not for me. I'm not going to do that. And I actually talked to my surgeon about that, and he said, yeah, he couldn't do it either. He likes cheese too much. So what I have opted for is what we call a plant-focused diet.
Okay.
So, really reducing the amount of animal, protein, if you will, but in keeping it lean protein, chicken, fish, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
Pretty much have eliminated beef out of my diet. Eat a lot of vegetables, fresh vegetables and fruit as much, and I love those anyway. So that's
Good.
not too bad. And it pretty much eliminated anything with sugar from my diet. There's a school of thought, if you will, out there that sugar feeds cancer.
Yeah.
I talked to my medical oncologist about that, and she doesn't, really buy that. Her comment was, don't eat a bowl of ice cream every night, but that your
Sure.
body regulates sugar like it does salt,
Mhm.
etc. So, but just erring on the side of caution. I'm not a big sugar eater anyway. It's just been easier to reduce
Yeah.
that. And I drink very, very little, if any, alcohol, if you will. I do enjoy an occasional glass of wine. The oncologist at UCSF said wine is a fermented food and we need fermented food. So,
Good go.
okay. So
Yes.
she said, I have no objection to an occasional glass of wine. Really, I sort of limit that. So that's just pretty much what I do. I drink like a protein, smoothie, every morning, and whether it be, one kind or another, a lot of times
Sure.
things in it. And then I just work to actually keep my weight up. Um, and I guess that's harder when you've eliminated sugar because
Sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it's a result of the treatments or the cancer or whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't gain weight no matter how much I eat. So I just keep eating.
Okay. Okay. Just keep eating. Well, that's okay then. Do
Eating.
you do anything in the way of supplements, Nance?
I do. I use pretty much a natural food supplement.
Right.
I consulted with a nutritionist that has some expertise in the area of cancer, and also basically supplements that are whole food based,
Perfect.
not not high doses of supplements, but I try to get most of it from food, but I do use, you know, a multiple that's a whole food based. I
Oh,
do
great. Okay.
calcium and magnesium, you know,
Sure.
D3, those kinds of things.
Right. Yeah, and and on the subjects of supplements, I'm a advocate for trying to use food-based supplements as well. I'm with you. We should try and get as many vitamins and minerals from the foods that we eat, but I feel like sometimes it's lacking. So a good food-based supplement or a superfood powder provides us with those vitamins and minerals that our body can assimilate better than, say, a supplement that's made out of non-food items. It's a little harder for us to digest and utilize those forms of isolated vitamins.
Yeah. Good. And
Good,
I
good.
also take turmeric
Okay.
daily, which is a good anti-inflammatory, and you know,
Fantastic.
cancer is an inflammation in your body.
Yeah.
Took it before, and it's recommended for cancer patients, and I continue to take that.
Nice, fantastic, great. And so, was it hard to? So, after the surgery, I know you kind of eased your way back into exercise. And so, what does that look like for you now? You just try and do something every day. I know you're an avid golfer and you're out golfing several times a week. Do you try to just walk and get some other kinds of movement in during the week?
I do. I walk just about every day. That's sort of my time during the day that I get grounded. I call it
Perfect.
sort of a, you know, it's part of my, it's really a meditation for me. I'm not a good meditator, but I can do that when I get out in the fresh
Perfect.
air. And I fortunately have a dog that likes to walk. So we walk basically every morning. So I like to start my day that way. The only days I don't do that is if I play golf early, but when I play golf, I walk. So I get that. I
Nice.
try to get a, you know, a yoga class in at least once a week. And, you know, I stretch regularly. So I could
Great.
probably do a little bit more cardio work at this point. But that's on the agenda.
Perfect, perfect. All right, and then let's also touch on how do you stay positive mentally and emotionally as you wake up every day with this new reality.
Yeah. I think I mean, I realized that I guess I had a choice, if you will, between optimism and pessimism. And I chose optimism. And fortunately, that works sort of with my own DNA. I think I'm a bit of a natural optimist,
Mhm.
glass half full rather than glass half empty. A little bit harder, of course, when you know face this kind of a health crisis. But so what do I do? When I wake up in the morning or when I'm out on my walk, I have basically a gratitude practice. I, you know, go through, you know, the things, you know, every day, or at least I pick five every day that I am grateful for.
Mhm.
And also have tried to incorporate an acknowledgement practice where you acknowledge yourself for the positive things that you've done, whether it's you ate right the day before, or you know, you walked 4 miles, whatever that might be. So that helps to ground me and it helps to keep me positive. I try to read, you know, some different kinds of people that are writing about this issue and how they've dealt with it.
Yeah.
I stay socially engaged with, you know, people in my life that are positive and support me. And I just know that I have so much to be grateful for that, yeah, you know, I wish this hadn't happened. Nobody wants to have this happen, but I really feel like I need to focus on how I cope with it. And I have too many other good things in my life that, you know, to focus on the negative. That's not to say that there aren't times, and it's always sort of back there, you know,
Yeah.
but I try to kind of let that go by. acknowledge that, yeah, you're having those feelings, that you're scared because you've got a scan coming up, or you've got a blood test coming up, or
Mhm.
you just don't know what, you don't want to make plans for 6 months down the road and you just don't know what the situation
Right.
will be. But again, rather than focusing on those things that you can't control, try to let them go by, acknowledge them, acknowledge that you're feeling fearful or you're feeling angry or whatever it is, and then sort of get on with it, because
Nice.
there's really so little that we can control,
Right, right.
not just this.
Yeah, and it's not just related to cancer, it's every day. I
Exactly.
mean, we could walk outside the front door and get hit by a car, so we never know what's going to happen 6 months down the road. So I think those are fantastic practices to live for each one of us each day. And I loved the gratitude, but I also love the affirming yourself for the good things that you've done, because I don't know about you, but so often I don't look at the good things that I've accomplished. I'm always beating myself up for the things that I think I didn't meet the mark on. But if we can flip that script and acknowledge who we are and the amazing things that we've done and how far we've come, that changes our whole viewpoint.
It
Right?
does. It's
Yeah,
that whole negative self-talk,
absolutely.
process. And
Yeah.
I think we all do it. And especially those of us that tend to be perfectionists. We talked about
We talked about that a little bit earlier.
do everything. You have to do it right. You have to do it
Just
on
right.
time. It's
Right.
exhausting.
It
But
is exhausting, yes.
so yes, absolutely. Just try to, yeah, acknowledge. And that's something that, was suggested to me by, a kind of a mentor coach person that I'm doing some work with. And I was doing the gratitude piece, but I hadn't really thought about the acknowledgement.
I think
And
it's great.
yeah. And she
Yeah.
suggested that, and I like
Such
that.
a necessary tool for all of us, I think. And you said one more thing too I thought was really important. It was acknowledging the fear. Acknowledge the fear, because that's a real feeling, but let it go by. Acknowledge it. Say, I see you. Thank you for being there. I don't need to look at you today, so you can go over there and wait, or whatever that might be. But realize that if we're constantly running from that, we're not facing that, and we're giving it more power maybe than it actually has. Like if we run from something and don't pay attention to it. But if we stand there and face it and go, okay, yes, I acknowledge that this is scary. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's okay, because right now I'm fine. And thank you for reminding me that I need to stay present, or thank you for reminding me that I've come this far, or whatever that fear can allow you to be grateful for. Then it takes some of that exaggerated power away from it, don't you think?
I do. I absolutely
I think that
agree with
that's,
that.
yeah, really important. So fantastic. I love all of those tips, because they're not only great for someone that's bad living with cancer or another serious illness, but it's also great for just everybody living a more aware and a life that's more aware of being right now, and changing our mental outlook and our attitude, and living, in a positive way. Like you said, you chose optimism.
Yeah.
And I thought that that was fantastic, because you made that choice. And so that's the filter that you're choosing to live from. I'm going to be optimistic today. And so maybe for me, I would have to go. Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and maybe I'm spitting nails or something. I'd have to remind myself, oh, yes, no, 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 I chose to be optimistic.
Right.
Right?
That's right. And I think the other thing, at least for me, that has been important has been to really sort of, sorry about that phone.
Okay.
Hang on just a minute. To really focus, and this kind of a health crisis, I think, helps you to do that, is to focus on the things that are important. I don't want to, at some point in the future, have regrets because I procrastinated, for example, about, getting down often enough to see, my,
Right.
okay, or that, I didn't, plan and take a trip with my husband that we really wanted to do. So and I can't remember what they are, but there are these 5 regrets that the dying have, that are kind of well accepted. and I
Uh-huh.
don't want to have any of those. And so again, a crisis like this helps to focus you and say, I don't, who knows? I hope I have a lot of time going forward, but I'm not going to put these things that are important to me off
Correct.
indefinitely. I'm going to make plans. You and I have talked about we're going to get
Yeah,
together pretty soon. I'm not going to
yeah,
regret that I didn't, spend more time with you, for example,
yeah,
or with my children or with my husband.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
that's another way that I can stay positive because I can plan something. I have something to look forward to. I feel like I've, accomplished, putting that, if you will, on my calendar.
Fantastic. And I think that does happen whenever we face a big crisis or a life-threatening event. It changes our perspective because we go, you know what, so many things that I do are not important, but what is important? It does. It brings it to reality. It's like telling those people that you love them, or like you said, spending time with your husband, your family, doing those things that are important that we won't regret not doing. So I think that's huge too. So fantastic. Anything else you want to share with us? Your tips have been amazing. I love them for living life out of a positive viewpoint, for embracing life, for being fully alive, fit and free. I
Yeah,
mean, that's kind of what it's all about, isn't it?
it
It's
is
living our best life. And those
every
tips
day.
that you shared with us are for each one of us. It's like, yes, we're going to choose to do those important things in our life. We're going to choose to be optimistic. We're going to stand there and face fear and tell them thank you and now you can go away. And we're going to do those things that keep us in that positive, healthy state of mind.
I agree. And I think there's just this one thing that I would like to mention, and it's a resource that I believe you might provide
Sure.
those that I gave you earlier that you'll put on
Yes.
the website. It's a book that's called Anti-Cancer Living.
Okay,
So
fantastic.
you don't have to already have cancer to
Okay.
find it relevant. But if somebody does, they certainly can. But it talks about something called the mix of six, and I'll just quickly, give you the titles of those.
Okay.
So number one on that mix of six is love and social support. That's at the top. So your social support system. The second is stress and resilience. The third is the need for rest and recovery. You have to let your body rest and recover. Um, the fourth is moving for wellness. So that's the exercise piece. The fifth one is food as medicine, talks about the nutrition piece. And then lastly is the environment and the quest for health and, how you try to eliminate, some environmental toxins, if you will.
Fantastic. What a great resource. I just
Great
wrote all
resource.
of those down. And we'll be sure to post her. She sent us a nice document with a list of tips and resources that she found helpful. We'll post that on the document and actually include this one in there. I can't remember if this was on that list or not, but yeah. But we'll make that available to you as a download from the Alive Fit and Free website. So Nancy, again, thank you so much. I'm so encouraged
Oh,
and learned a lot about you that I didn't know.
really? All right. We don't have a chance to have those kind of conversations.
I know you really don't. So this has been really exciting for me, and just I'm honored to have been able to share this part of your journey with you and to share it with others because, we all need to know, that we're not alone. We're not alone in life's journeys. So there you go, the socialization. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
So,
you. And
yeah,
thank you for your support, Vicki, through all of this.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's not get mushy here. Okay.
Okay, no much. It was my pleasure to do these two
Thank you.
sessions, and
Oh,
I
I
hope
loved
that
it.
it's helpful to someone.
Yeah, fantastic. So, again, thank you so much, and go have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, cool.